Hello and welcome to this tutorial on the GPU animation instancer. We will do a complete setup and bake our characters and also create some texture 2D arrays so we can have variants without needing an extra material or baking. So here we have an empty scene. One thing that should always be done first is go to prefabs and at the instancing manager. You can set up multiple things such as receive shadows, cast shadows, and so on. All the detailed settings are in the documentation, so we will go just through the process of baking for now. And yeah, so what you do next is you go to Tools, Thompson Games, Vertex Animation Baker, and then you drop your character inside. For example, this here is mine. And you can already see that some things got populated. One important thing for the character, if you set up a LOD group so that you can have a lower mesh variant, then this gets automatically respected by the baker. So it's always good to set it up beforehand so that you can also have LOD groups then with the instanced animations. Then we can add our clips, such as for now idle and walk. You can add a material. This one here is mine. If you do not add one, then it takes the one that comes with the model itself, but oftentimes it differs, so please make sure to put a material here. Then you can select the output folder, the baked frame rate. If you set this to a higher level, then of course the animation will be better, but it also takes more RAM. So here you can see down here it's a prediction, and if we set this to higher, then it goes up, and the lower the better for performance. So if you have huge crowds, then it's good to keep this at a lower frame rate, and if you have just a few characters or something, then you can put this higher. Then the precision of 16 is the better one. Unorm 8 is lower, but it also takes less RAM. So, but there a slight jitter can come up. So this is also something to keep in mind in the max texture wish. And the scale correction factor. This is sometimes models come with a wrong scale. For example, my demo models come with a wrong scale because I'm not a 3D modeler. I don't know how to do it. Usually, like Synthi models and so on, you can leave it at 1. Here, for my demo models, I have to put a factor inside. Then the bake LOD groups. If your character has one, it automatically gets baked, and then you can set up 3 LOD distances. Import clip events is that if you have events on the animations, they automatically get imported and added to the baked animations. Then you can select which bones to bake. For example, we will do the left hand now and the right hand. Here it is, just selected what you want to be baked. And then you can click create character in the scene. And now if we click bake all animations, it takes a short while. You can see some things popped up here. And we have a legionnaire here in this scene. For now, we will just see the gizmos because it gets populated automatically then on game start. There is no mesh or anything. That's why you don't see it. Here itself, you have all of the animations the character can play. It's always good to have every animation that he can possibly play inside here. Otherwise, they cannot be played even if called. Character data is the general character. Play automatically and autoplay clip. It's good to always have here the idle animation, the speed, clip variation, and so on. Variant ID is something that we go back to later. It is to give it different looks without needing an extra material and so on. Then here you can see the animations itself. They have a name, frames, and so on. You can also set up the speed inside here if it's a looping one. crossfade, some variation, and here if you want to you can add events, just the name, and then you can also put here when it actually should be played, and integer value, so you can pass on values with it. Then here you have the shaders. They look a bit weird, it's because they have been baked. You can adjust multiple things such as smoothness and so on. Down here you also have some extra settings for performance and so on. And this one we will go back to later with the variants. Something to keep in mind. Then you have the general data. Here you can see the LOD levels and so on. The call distance you can set up here or in the instancing manager. And also here you can see the bone names. And here for the baked scale, it is so that the bones are actually displayed right. I baked it with 0.01, so I have to put it 100 here. But usually everything is kept at 1. It's just because my demo models are not well done. Now if we go back here, you can see it has child. This is because we baked attachments. So you can see here left hand and right hand, you can adjust the offsets. And those are the baked bones, so you can add weapons and so on there. There's a two-way approach. You can do it via GameObjects like this here, but we can also add attachments which are fully instanced, and the meshes of them can be swapped at runtime. Also, they can be enabled, disabled, and so on. But we will now look into this firstly. So if we now press play, then you can see here's our character. The animation is playing as wanted. Here you can see the gizmos of the bones. They are at the right position. Of course, we could also adjust that. But so far, it looks nicely. So let's now look into attachments that do not use GameObjects, that are better for performance. But of course, they are not GameObjects. So what you do is get the script for IT bone mesh. Then you can select the mesh and material. For example, we will now use the shield. It's material. So as I said, you can swap this at runtime. Also the offsets and so on. Then the bone name. This we need to take from here or from the baked data. Like this. And here you can also adjust the position offset, rotation offset. Then the max distance, afterwards it will be cooled. So it's good for performance, keep in mind, and the scale of it. Here again, I have bad models, so I have to put 100 inside there. Then let's remove those two and let's try it out. And as you can see, now he has a shield. It is not clickable because it's fully instanced and way better for performance. And you can, of course, adjust its rotation and so on to make it fit nicely to your wanted position. You can also add multiple of them. And it's a good way of actually having thousands of units with attachments in your scene. You can also freely combine it to whatever you want. It's just good to keep in mind that this here has a better performance than actual GameObjects. So let's now look into variants of the units. For that we have the texture array builder. What we do is we go back here and then we select our textures, if I find them. Here, select the textures that you want to use and then simply click at selected and click build texture array. Now a folder will open and you can click where you want it to be saved. Now we have it here. It's actually not the wrong folder, so I'm going to move it over here to our baked data. Here, and what we do now is we edit here on the LODs on both. And edit here on the base map array for variants. And then we go down and click variants via texture 2D array. And if we now duplicate our character, now we can give it a variant ID. So ID 0 is the first texture, ID 1 is the second, and so on if you have multiple there. So if we put now, this one has now 1, and this one has 0. Now we will see they have different colors. So one is blue, this is the one with variant ID 1, and this one is red with variant ID 0. And this is a great way, for example, for Synthi models, they have different texture variations, to use those without needing extra materials, because the more materials, the worse performance. And this way we can simply read it from the array, but keep the same material. So that's it so far. One more thing for events. You can use the Unity actions per code. It's written in the documentation, but you can also use send message events. For example, if you give it on a tag or something and a value, then if you want to use send message events, then the functions that you receive the event also needs to be called on a tag or whatever you put there, and it needs to be able to pass an integer. So that's it. I hope this tutorial was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me.